My name is Kiran Bhatia. I'm a senior at Brookline High School, and recently I tried to file, or I'm currently trying to file, a warrant article that would implement and create a youth council within Brookline. So I think that this article is really what it boils down to, is fostering civic participation among youth in Brookline. Right now our town's government is composed of multiple boards and commissions, that are related to a variety of factors. There's a commission for women, there's a commission on disability, a commission on the elderly, on aging. And what I really noticed when I was, searching through the list of commissions and boards is that there was no commission that was specifically designed for youth. And, given that youth make up 26% of this town's population, age 15 through 25, I kind of thought that was a huge oversight and a huge error. And, I filed this warrant article because I strongly believe, and I believe that the warrant article encourages this, is that it encourages youth to actually participate in their town's government, to become civically aware of what's going on in town government, and really to make a difference and advocate for, solutions to issues that they see as youth and problems that they see specifically as youth. So what I really am hoping to get out of this is, just to show other people, especially youth, that, we can make a difference in town government. That it doesn't matter necessarily how many degrees you hold, or it doesn't matter, how many years you have lived in Brookline, or quite frankly lived on this earth, what your age is. Anybody can make a difference when they're passionate about an issue. And for me, I'm incredibly passionate about fostering, civic engagement among youth. And I strongly believe that the youth of Brookline, based on the conversations that I've had with people at my high school, based on the conversations that I've had with people at other high schools who live in Brookline, is that, Brookline youth are incredibly smart, are incredibly able, and are incredibly willing to make a difference and want to make a difference. And so what I want to get out of this article is, I want the town to see youth as, a large part of what makes Brookline Brookline, what contributes to the diversity of Brookline, and also recognize the power that youth have in terms of voting, in terms of civics, in terms of making change, governmentally. And, what I would really like is for there to be a youth council for, the town meeting to effect a youth council in Brookline. We'll see what they do. But I think that that's really the ultimate goal of this warrant article. I have been working on this warrant article. I first conceived of it, in May of 2024, so, a few months ago. And I really conceived of it because I noticed that there were several other municipalities across Massachusetts and even across the nation, towns, cities like Boston, for example, that had youth councils that actually had a legislative presence in their respective city or town. And I noticed that Brookline didn't have one. And so, I kind of began to think, is this something that could be achievable? Has this been done before? Have people tried to, affect a youth council before, create a youth council? And I discovered that the answer was no. And so really that kind of spurred me on to number one, try and create a youth council. But number one, to try and talk to, as many sort of key players that I could in Brookline government. So I reached out to select board members, I reached out to town meeting members, just to see, is this something that is feasible? And based on the conversations that I had with these folks, specific shout out to Mike Sandman of the select board, who was particularly instrumental in, helping this vision kind of get off the ground and become what it is today. I really believed that this was something that I could take on. And so I looked at warrant article examples from the town. I talked to a friend of mine actually, passed a warrant article banning fur in Brookline at age 14. So I thought, if he can do it at age 14, I can do it at age 17. And so I kind of looked at, previous warrant article templates, previous warrant articles, what their specific language was. And over the summer, what I did is I just drafted one and I sent it out to, members of the select board, to the town moderator, to the town council, just to see, are there any suggestions that you would make, either, content-wise or, just in terms of the language? And, they reached out to me, and the final product of the warrant article, that's because of the feedback that they gave me. And so during the school year, actually, a week ago tomorrow, so October 1st, I had 3 meetings with the school subcommittee of the advisory committee, with the town committee on structure and organization, and with the select board. At each of those committees, what they did is they considered the warrant article as a whole. And so, they said, is this right for Brookline? Is this the right time? And is this particular warrant article, is the language of it, good for Brookline? And so I participated in those hearings, in those meetings. I testified on behalf of the youth council. I was aided by other members of the community who came out and spoke in favor of it, which I'm truly grateful for. And, really it's making its way through town government right now. And ultimately it will be presented on November 19th to the town meeting being the legislative body within Brookline, who will then have the final say on whether we create a warrant article. And so, we're going to let the process play out. But, it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, and really a lot of, gathering of feedback from a lot of folks across Brookline. So I think that the age restrictions of the council being 14 through 24, I think that it really allows the Brookline Youth Council to get as many diverse perspectives from youth as possible. Youth aren't a monolith like any other group. There's considerable diversity, whether that be your background, your race, your gender. There's considerable diversity among teenagers and among youth in Brookline. And so I strongly believe that at age 14, you're just entering high school. You still have a lot that you can contribute to the community. And you have a lot of insight that you can bring. You may not have as much experience as an 18-year-old or as a 22-year-old who graduated high school or college, respectively. But you still have that perspective to bring. You still have the perspective of somebody who is new to the high school, who is new, essentially, to being a teenager. And you have that kind of perspective. And I really believe that having 14, 15-year-olds on the council in addition to 20-year-olds, I think it really allows us to cover as many issues as possible. Because what affects a 24-year-old may not affect a 14-year-old in the same way. And so, for the council to have as much of a say and have as much of an impact on the issues facing Brookline youth, I tried to broaden the age as much as possible of the members who could serve on the council. And so that's why, the age requirements start at 14 and end at 24. Yeah, so that's a great question. So what I strongly believe that the Youth Council can do is be a voice of advocacy or an advocate for youth in the town. What I conceived of, the kind of issues that it would tackle, really, I think I drew in large part from existing youth councils. I look to the Cambridge Youth Council as a huge source of inspiration for me. The Cambridge Youth Council, what they did is in 2016, they started in 2016, and recently they launched a mental health kind of awareness campaign that really put mental health resources in classrooms, that put mental health resources, within the community for teenagers. They also provided free menstrual products within all public libraries and all fire departments of Cambridge. And so those kinds of specific policy items, I think, are so critical, for the town of Brookline, because those are issues in which we lack, right? I think that every day in which we don't have a youth council, but other municipalities do, and neighboring municipalities in Massachusetts do, I think is one more day that we're behind the curve on championing youth issues, on fighting for youth, on advocating for youth within our town. And so I think that the biggest issues in which youth can make a difference, mental health, of course, public health, I strongly believe that it's those kinds of issues that youth are really best positioned to deal with. We know that mental health affects everybody, of course, but I think that recent surveys have shown over the past few years that youth are particularly predisposed to having mental health challenges. And that's really because of the generation and the society in which we've grown up, right? Social media use is quite prevalent among young people, far more than it is among adults. And it's those kinds of life experiences that we have as youth that other demographics, other populations of Brookline don't have. It's those kinds of issues in which we can make a difference, in which we can say, you know what, here is the youth council, and here it's going to champion those kinds of issues: mental health, protecting the mental health of students. And so, I think that mental health right now is probably the biggest issue that faces Brookline youth. In terms of what I've seen at my own high school, there are far too many, mental health incidents. There are far too many students who, have to take time off, because they say that our school system isn't adequately, aiding them in dealing with mental health struggles, in dealing with extreme anxiety, in dealing with depression. And so, what I want the youth council to do is I want the youth council to be sort of a champion of those kinds of issues, of speaking up for youth who ordinarily don't have, a platform within town government. And, that really strikes at the heart of the youth council, is that, right now young people, I think, because there's no sort of formalized structure of town government that specifically advocates for young people, we feel boxed out of the process. And we feel, like, can we go to the select board? Can we go to, town meeting? Is that a place for us? Because there's really no kind of set in stone, body in which we can say, here youth are represented. And so the youth council, by being for youth, by youth, I think that what it does is that it really says, here's a place in which youth are welcome to participate in town government, and a body in which, youth advocacy can best be performed. And so I really think that that's what, the youth council best seeks to accomplish. And of course, issues come up all the time, certainly that we can't plan for. If you look at a lot of the racist incidents recently that we've seen at Brookline High School, those are kinds of issues that, nobody wants to think about because nobody wants it to happen, but they do happen, unfortunately. And so, that's another issue where the youth council can step in, send, recommendations to select boards, send recommendations to town meeting on how they should best respond to that. And so, those are the kinds of issues that I think the youth council is best and uniquely positioned to deal with. I really I'm confident that it would do wonders for Brookline youth, and I strongly believe that this would only create a better Brookline.